Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are talking about my most anticipated 2021 releases for the first half of the year, specifically from debut or new to me authors. So this is part two. Part one was about most anticipated releases from authors that I already know and love. If you haven't seen that one yet, I will link it below. I have quite a few books to talk about today. There's some really exciting stuff coming out, including what is currently my most anticipated release for the year, at least for the first half, but like, I'm very excited about this. Anyways, let's get started. I got my laptop. I'm going to be reading the descriptions off of this because I am not going to be able to remember the descriptions for all 20 books. So first up, we have Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Meyer. And the description says, "The forest is a dangerous place where siren song lures men and women to their deaths. For centuries, a witch has harvested souls to feed the heartless tree, using its power to grow her domain. When Owen Merrick is lured into the witch's wood, one of her tree siren daughters, Serene, saves his life instead of ending it. Every night, he climbs over the garden wall to see her, and every night her longing to become human deepens. But with a shift in the stars foretells a dangerous curse, Serene's quest to become human will lead them into the ancient war raging between the witch and the king who is trying to stop her." And this one, like, there's a forest, there's a romance with a tree spirit, it's described as darkly atmospheric. It all sounds amazing. Next we have Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long, which is an adult fantasy. Hessa is a warrior priestess of the goddess of war with the power to turn an enemy's bones to dust with a scream. Banished for disobeying her goddess's command to murder a traveler, she prays for forgiveness alone on a mountainside. While she is gone, raiders raze her village and obliterate the priesthood. Grieving and alone, Hessa must find the traveler, atone for her weaknesses, and strive to win back her goddess's favor. But her journey reveals a harrowing truth. The gods are dying, and the high halls of the afterlife are fading. Bigger, older powers slumber beneath the surface of her world, and they're about to wake up. There are warrior priestesses, fickle gods. Sounds great. Then we have The Forever Sea by Joshua Philip Johnson, which is another adult fantasy. And I gotta say, this one has one of my favorite covers of the new releases. Like, this cover is beautiful. But it is described as, on the never-ending, miles-high expanse of prairie grasses known as the Forever Sea, Kindred Greyreach is just beginning to fit in with the crew of her new ship when she receives devastating news. Her grandmother, the Marquess, has stepped from her vessel and disappeared into the sea, but the note she leaves Kindred suggests this was not an act of suicide. Something waits in the depths, and the Marquess is set out to find it. To follow in her grandmother's footsteps, Kindred must embroil herself in conflicts bigger than she could imagine. A water war simmering below the surface of two cultures, the politics of a mythic pirate city floating beyond the edges of safe seas, battles against beasts of the deep, driven to the brink of madness, and the elusive promise of a world beyond the waves. And it is described as an environmental epic fantasy, which is really interesting, so very excited for this one. Then we have The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek, which is another adult fantasy, which is about when a banished witch falls in love with the legendary trickster Loki, she risks the wrath of the gods in this moving, subversive debut novel that reimagines Norse mythology. Following a punishment from Odin, Angrboda, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, flees into the furthest reaches of a remote forest. There she is found by a man who reveals himself to be Loki, and her initial distrust of him transforms into a deep and abiding love. Their union produces 3 unusual children, each with a secret destiny. She learns that her blissful life, and possibly all of existence, is in danger. So I think that one sounds really interesting. That is inspired by Norse mythology, and it has Loki in it, who is a character that I think can be really fun to have in stories. All right, I had to get my reading glasses because I cannot keep reading these without my glasses on. And oh, that's very reflective. All right, I'm gonna see how this goes. So next we have The Memory Theater by Karen Tidbeck, which I think is an adult fantasy, but it has the word memory in the title, so of course I'm interested in it. But it says, in a world just parallel to ours exists a mythical realm known only as the Gardens. It is a place where feasts never end, games of croquet have devastating consequences, and teenagers are punished for growing up. For a select group of masters, it's a decadent paradise where time stands still. For those who serve them, however, it's a slow torture where their lives can be ended in a blink. In a bid to escape before their youth betrays them, Dora and Thistle, best friends and confidants, set out in a remarkable journey through time and space. Traveling between their world and ours, they hunt the one person who can grant them freedom. Along the way, they encounter a mysterious traveler who trades in favors and never forgets debts. A crossroads at the center of the universe, our own world on the brink of war, and a traveling troupe of actors with the ability to unlock the fabric of reality. Which, even if this isn't about memory and it's just the title, that sounds amazing. Next we have The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, which is an adult political fantasy. And this one says, Taurine is a soldier, stolen as a child and raised to kill and die for the Empire. Her only loyalty is to her fellow conscripts. But now her company has been sent back to her homeland to start a rebellion, and the ties of blood may be stronger than she thought. Luca needs a turncoat, someone desperate enough to tiptoe the bayonet's edge between treason and orders, someone who can sway the rebels toward peace, while Luca focuses on what really matters, getting her uncle off her throne. Through assassinations and massacres in bedrooms and war rooms, Taurine and Luca will haggle over the price of a nation, but some things aren't for sale. So, I think this one sounds really interesting too. Next, we have The Widow Queen by Elżbieta Czerezinska. Hopefully I said that kind of correctly, which is adult historical fiction. And so this one says, the bold one, they call her too bold for most. To her father, the great Duke of Poland, Swiatoslawa and her two sisters represent 3 chances for an alliance, 3 marriages on which to build his empire. But she seeks a throne of her own with no husband by her side. The gods may grant her wish, but crowns sit heavy and power is a sword that cuts both ways. So this one sounds like just the kind of thing I'm interested in for historical fiction, and it's about this like queen and fleshing out her story. And also, this book has already been released in Polish originally, but the English translation is being released in 2021. Then we have The Last Wind Witch by Jennifer Adam, which is a middle grade fantasy. And this one says, Brida is content in her small village of Oak Hollow. There, she's plenty occupied by trying to convince her fickle magic to do what it's meant to in her work as a head witch's apprentice, until she accidentally catches the attention of the wicked queen. On the run from the queen's huntsmen and her all-seeing crow spies, Brida discovers the truth about her family, her magic, and who she is destined to be, and that she may hold the power to defeating the wicked queen and setting the kingdom right again. Which I think sounds great. It sounds like it's going to be foresty. She's an apprentice to a hedge witch, which is a kind of magic that I love, and there are crow spies. This sounds like it's going to be a super fun middle grade that's right up my alley. And now we have reached my most anticipated release. I am so excited about this. So this is Sister Song by Lucy Holland, which is an adult historical fantasy. Like, I'm just going to read the description and then I'm going to ramble about why I'm so excited about this. So it says, 535 AD, King Cador's children inherit a fragmented land abandoned by the Romans. Riva, scarred in a terrible fire, fears she will never heal. Keen battles to be seen as the king's son when born a daughter, and Sign, the spoiled youngest girl, yearns for romance. Change comes on the day ash falls from the sky, bringing Myrddin, meddler and magician, and Tristan, a warrior whose secrets will tear the siblings apart. Riva, Keen, and Sign must take fate into their own hands or risk being tangled in a story they could never have imagined, one of treachery, love, and ultimately murder. It's a story that will shape the destiny of Britain. Okay, so I'm so excited about this for so many reasons. One of them, hold on, I'm taking my glasses off for this. So one of them is that this is generally just like a setting and a setup that I really like. It almost sounds like it's going to be a mix of The Lost Queen by Signe Pike and The Queens of Innis Lear by Tessa Gratton, which are both things that I love. So like if it's anything like either of those two books, I'm going to love it. But also, while I was researching this, I found out that this is a retelling of a traditional murder ballad that I love and I haven't thought about in years. This is a retelling of the Trois Sisters, which is also called the Two Sisters or sometimes called the Cruel Sister. I distinctly remember the first time I heard this like murder ballad, which is about two sisters and one of them kills the other. And then other magical stuff happens. And I loved it from like the moment I heard it, and I wanted my mom to just play it on repeat, and she wouldn't let me because she thought that the story was creepy and it was kind of weird that I was like so obsessed with it as like a 12-year-old. I will link below the version of the song that I first heard it, because there are different like versions of it, but if you want to know the story, that's there. It's also just a really pretty song. So I was so excited to find out that this is a retelling of this murder ballad that I loved as a kid, but also there's a part of this story that is just amazing and makes me so excited about it, because there's a part of the story in the ballad where they turn a dead body into a magical harp, and I'm just so excited. I'm trying to not hype myself too much for it, but this is my most anticipated release. I really hope that I love it. Okay, the glasses go back on so I can read again. So next up we have Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart, which is a YA fantasy. And this one says, Irea has spent her life in a cell, but every day brings her closer to freedom and vengeance. Jasmine is the queen's daughter, but unlike her sister before her, she has no intention of dying to strengthen her mother's power. Sworn enemies, these two witches enter a precarious alliance to take down a mutual threat, but revenge is a bloody pursuit and nothing is certain, except the lengths they will go to win this game. So, this one, first of all, has a beautiful cover. Second of all, this one, like, complicated sister dynamics, love it, has witches, sounds great. It is Jamaican inspired like fantasy, which sounds like it's gonna be really interesting. I'm very excited for this one also. Then we have another middle grade, which is The Last Fallen Star by Gracie Kim, and this is from the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. And so this one says, Riley O can't wait to see her sister get initiated into the Gam clan, a powerful lineage of Korean healing witches their family has belonged to for generations. Although Riley is desperate to follow in her sister's footsteps when she herself turns 13, she's a saram, a person without magic. Riley was adopted, and despite having memorized every healing spell she's ever heard, she often feels like the odd one out in her family and the gifted community. Then Hattie gets an idea. What if the two of them could cast a spell that would allow Riley to share Hattie's magic? Their sleuthing reveals a promising incantation in the family's old spell book, and the sisters decide to perform it at Hattie's initiation ceremony. When the sisters attempt to violate the laws of the god realm, Hattie's life ends up hanging in the balance, and to save her, Riley has to fulfill an important task: find the last fallen star. But what even is the star, and how can she find it? So this one sounds like it's gonna be really interesting. It's based on Korean folklore, but really what drew me to this is healing magic. So I'm really excited to read a middle grade that has healing magic in it. Then we have In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. This is a YA fantasy, and the description for this one says, in Thanopolis, those gifted with magic are assigned an undead spirit to guard them and control them. Ever since Rovan's father died trying to keep her from this fate, she's hidden her magic, but when she accidentally reveals her powers, she's bound to a spirit and thrust into the world of palace intrigue and deception. Desperate to escape, Rovan finds herself falling for two people she can't fully trust: Lydia, a beguiling, rebellious princess, and Ivrolos, the handsome spirit with the ability to control Rovan, body and soul. Together they uncover a secret that will destroy Thanopolis. To save them all, Rovan will have to start a rebellion in both the mortal world and the underworld, and find a way to trust the princess and spirit battling for her heart if she doesn't betray them first. So that one also sounds great. I feel like I just say this about every single one of these because obviously these are my most anticipated releases, but they all sound so good. Then we have Dream Country by Aakash Brown, which is another fantasy. I'm not really sure if this one is adult or YA, but this is a sibling rivalry to fuel your worst nightmares. The dysfunctional triplet gods of sleep, dreams, and nightmares are kept separate by the deadly gates of horn and ivory. Only one fact keeps them tightly bound. Each of them is a suspect in their mother's murder. Their knife-edge feud worsens when a mortal enters the world with outstanding abilities that threaten to change the game for them all. In this thrilling young adult, oh, it is young adult, I had that right there, okay. So in this thrilling young adult fantasy, Aakash Brown brings to life a visionary world infused with Kenyan, Brazilian, Caribbean, and Grecian culture references. A story like no other with stakes as high as they come. So I think that sounds really cool that there are triplet gods of dreams, sleep, and nightmares. That just sounds really cool. Then we have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed, which is a YA fantasy. And this one says, in her forest-veiled pagan village, Evike is the only woman without power, making her an outcast clearly abandoned by the gods. The villagers blame her corrupted bloodline. When soldiers arrive from the Holy Order of Woodsmen to claim a pagan girl for the king's blood sacrifice, Evike is betrayed by her fellow villagers and surrendered. But when monsters attack the woodsmen and they're captive en route, slaughtering everyone but Evike and the cold, one-eyed captain, they have no choice but to rely on each other. Except he's no ordinary woodsman. He's the disgraced prince whose father needs a pagan magic to consolidate his power. So this one is supposed to be inspired by Hungarian history and Jewish mythology. I am not sure what part of this is going to be Jewish inspired because they make a point of them being pagan, but I'm very intrigued and I am going to read it. I'm interested to see what part of this ends up being Jewish inspired. Also, it sounds like it's going to be foresty, so always a good thing to me. Then the next one, in some ways, sounds a little similar almost. This is For the Wolf by Hannah F. Witten, which is another YA fantasy. So this one says, as the only second daughter born in centuries, Red has one purpose, to be sacrificed to the wolf in the wood in hope that he'll return the world's captured gods. Red is almost relieved to go. Plagued by a dangerous power she can't control, at least she knows that in the wilder wood she won't hurt those she loves again. But the legends lie. The wolf is a man, not a monster. Her magic is a calling, not a curse. And if she doesn't learn how to use it, the monsters the gods have become will swallow the wilder wood and her world whole. So that one sounds like it's also going to be very foresty, so I'm excited. Next up, we have Sisters of the Snake by Sasha and Serena Nanua, which is a YA fantasy. So this one says, a lost princess, a dark puppet master, and a race against time before all is lost. Princess Rani longs for a chance to escape her gilded cage and prove herself. Ria is a street urchin stealing just to keep herself alive. When these two lives collide, everything turns on its head because Ria and Rani, orphan and royal, are unmistakably identical. A deal is struck to switch places, but danger lurks in both worlds, and to save their home, thief and princess must work together or watch it all fall to ruin. So that kind of sounds like it's almost like a Prince and the Pauper kind of scenario, but this one also, beautiful cover, and I think it sounds like it's gonna be fun. Gonna have like a switching places scenario. And then the last two that I have are both sci-fi. So the first one is The All-Consuming World by Cassandra Khaw, which is adult sci-fi. And this one says, a diverse team of broken former criminals get back together to solve the mystery of their last disastrous mission and to rescue a missing and much changed comrade. But they're not the only ones in pursuit of the secret at the heart of the planet. The highly evolved AI of the universe have their own agenda and will do whatever it takes to keep the humans from ever controlling the universe again. This band of dangerous women, half clone and half machine, must battle their own traumas and a universe of sapient age ships who want them dead in order to settle their affairs once and for all. So I love those kind of things that have like a cast of characters, a band of misfits, or like, you know, people coming together. So I think that that sounds like it'll be really fun. And this last one I'm a little more unsure about, but it still sounds like it'll be interesting. So this is Star Eater by Kirsten Hall, which is an adult sci-fi. And it says, she swallowed a star and the sisterhood called her the Eater. Elfreda will avoid pregnancy if it kills her, and one way or another, it will kill her. Though she's only able to stomach her gruesome day-to-day duties, the reality of preserving the Order's magical bloodline horrifies her. But the sisters have sworn to pay a price for the safety of their nation. Elfreda wants out, whatever the cost. So when a shadowy cabal approaches her with an offer of escape, she leaps at the opportunity. As their spy, she gains access to the highest reaches of the Order and enters a glittering world of opulent parties, subtle deceptions, and unexpected bloodshed. So I think that that one sounds really interesting. The only thing I'm a little unsure about is that I heard somebody mention something about this to do with like cannibalism. Which might be why it says she can't stomach her gruesome day-to-day duties, if it has to do with cannibalism. I'm not sure if I'm super into that. But the story does sound interesting. So that's why I'm a little unsure about this, but I do think the premise of it sounds like it could be really interesting, and love stuff with like a priestess. All right, so those are my most anticipated releases from new to me authors for the first half of 2021. Let me know if you're excited about any of these releases also. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.